StudyIQ IAS. अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल.
Hello, Namaskar, Namaskaram, Namaskaram, Namaskar. My name is Pooja Divedi. Welcome to my class, The Daily Current Affairs, where we are going to learn significant events of the past 24 hours in such a manner that it is going to positively impact your preparation for the UPSC Prelims 2024. Also, I would like to suggest those of you who are preparing for any sort of examination, it has been a proven thing that many questions from the current affairs, daily current affairs, have been asked in those papers as well, such as the CDS examination that recently happened. So make sure that you watch it not only from the perspective of the UPSC prelims examination, but various other examination. And I'm talking about the current affairs part here. Other than this, for UPSC mains as well, this particular part is going to be very important for you because the knowledge and concept clarity that you will gain will also be applicable to the mains examination. Now, do not worry about making notes because I provide the notes through my Telegram channel, that is by the name of Pooja Divedi UPSC. If you have any queries regarding this examination, any doubts if you have, you can talk to me on my Instagram as well. Okay, I will clarify it. Now, let's move ahead and talk about the various events that we have to cover. Also, I would like to tell you about one thing, that the last question about G20 that I asked. The first statement, it was saying that it was formulated in 2009. I marked it correct by mistake because the explanation is correct that it comprises of 19 countries and plus the European Union, and it was formulated in 1999. I have said that in the explanation, but while marking the answer, that particular sentence became correct. So sorry for that. Also, see the explanation first and then, okay, do it. Now, these are the various events that we have to cover. First, we'll talk about Byelections railway project. This particular question was a part of the practice question that I gave you. Okay, the P2I batches are going to commence from 11th of September. These will be morning classes from 8 a.m. onwards. Whoever is interested in that, please take admission as soon as possible because we will be soon closing our admission for the P2I Hindi, English and English. So make sure you do it. Other than this, if you do it right now, we will provide you the study material batch wise in as soon as possible. And this is a one-stop solution for those students who are looking for all the things at one place, such as the prelims test series, mains test series, answer writing practice, CSAT, essay, everything is given over here. Alright, so make sure that you do it. Just ensure that you use the code PDLive, because if you use the code PDLive, you will get a discount, and from 70,000 it will become 29,999 only. Let's move forward and talk about the practice question. The Byelections railway project was in the news due to the collapse of the under construction railway bridge. We saw that, as in the news was a lot about this. And the railway project is located in which state? Assam, West Bengal, Mizoram, Odisha. So the correct answer will be option C, that is Mizoram. Because of you have answered it correctly, if you have answered it correctly, I will take your names by the end of the segment. Because of such news, it is important to know about where is it happening. UPSC likes asking about such things. So make sure you have known it. Now, a steel girder from an under construction railway bridge in Mizoram collapsed, which killed 23 people who were working on it, poor people. The bridge is being constructed over an undulating, hilly forested terrain and river. Because there is a lack of skilled manpower in Mizoram, many of the people who were working there, they hailed from different regions. And that is why we saw that deaths happened in Mizoram, but the havoc was in different other states as well. It is a part of the Long in the Works project to take railway connectivity to Aizawl, the state capital. It is important to connect the northeast because of the lack of proper development. There is a lot of insurgency. And also, if we talk about the current times, India and China are at loggerheads with each other with respect to that. So that is why we are developing the northeast region a lot right now. The site of collapse was in Sairang, which is around 19 kilometers from Aizawl. Here is Aizawl and here is Sairang. Okay, if you are asked question about this, you can answer it correctly. The bridge is on the approach to Sairang station, the last point of this broad gauge railway project. The bridge is one of the 185 bridges part of the 51.38 kilometers long Byelections railway project. Okay, next question. Consider the following statements with respect to orbit raising exercise. By orbit raising, we are talking about raising the orbit of a spacecraft. You know, this is the Earth, these are the various orbits. So we are raising the orbit. During this exercise, the orbit of the satellite or spacecraft is increased. The process will include no rockets firing but only adjustment of angles. Aditya L1 will undergo 5 orbit raising exercise. So what do we have to see? How many of the statements given above is or are correct? Orbit raising exercise means we are ensuring we are using lesser fuel, because a direct flight from the Earth to the Lagrange 1 where Aditya 1 has to go, it will consume a lot of fuel because it will use its propellants, its thrusting. So in order to ensure that we are using the orbit, the gravity as well as the propellant, we raise the orbit. So Aditya L1, like the Chandrayaan 3, will undergo 5 orbit raising, and second orbit raising has been done recently. That is why I asked you this question. So during the exercise, the orbit of the satellite or the spacecraft is increased. Yes, from one to another, like this it will go. Okay, and it is done with the help of propellants. Propellants will boost the spacecraft further, and the process will include rocket firing and also adjustment of angles, because at every orbit angle has to be adjusted, and rocket firing will be done. Then only the spacecraft will be able to move from one orbit to another and then another, like that, right? So of course rocket turning on will be needed. This is a conceptual question. If you have a clarity of concept, then only you can answer this question. Okay, Aditya L1 will undergo 5 orbit raising exercise. Yes, it will. So first is correct, second is not correct, third is correct. All right, so 1 and 3 are correct, but second is not correct. 2 only will be the correct answer. ISRO has confirmed that Aditya L1 successfully performed the second earthbound maneuver. That means still in the orbit of the Earth. That is why it is still earthbound. The Space Agency's telemetry tracking and command network carried out this project. Okay, an orbital maneuver is also called as burn, and this is a normal protocol where the orbit of the spacecraft is raised like this by using propellants, and once it reaches the final orbit, it will be directly now going to the in a cruise manner. Cruise as in like this, it will go to the Lagrange 1. Lagrange 1 is over here. Lagrange 1 is a point where the pull of the gravity by the sun and the earth is in such a manner that this looks like a parking lot. The gravity is pulling the object towards itself from the sun's perspective. For the earth it is the same, and when two bodies are pulling any object towards each other, what will happen? It will remain stable. So by using this particular area, we will be able to look at the sun, and the eclipses will also not occur because this area is free of any sort of eclipses. And this is the reason why we have chosen Lagrange 1. In Lagrange 2, we have the James Webb Space Telescope. Now, the spacecraft, that is Aditya L1, it will take approximately 4 months, like 125 days, to reach from the Earth, from the date of its launch, to finally parking itself in Lagrange 1. This is approximately 1.5 million kilometers away from the Earth. So remember, because it could be asked in your examination. Alright, and also the PSLV XL has been used. Can you tell me in the comment segment which variant has been used? C52, C53, C54, C57. Tell me in the comment segment. Okay, so it is a regular protocol during a space flight. The orbit of the satellite or spacecraft is increased by using the propulsion system. It will include rockets firing and also adjustment of angles. Okay, moving on to the next portion. Consider the following statements. The Maharaja of Manipur had in 1939 agreed with the British to exclude the hill areas of the region from his direct control and governance. That I do not want this region, please exclude this region from my governance. In December 1971, Parliament passed the Manipur Hill Area District Council Act, which created autonomous district councils in Manipur's hill areas, which constituted 90% of the geographical area. So what do we have to see? Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Okay, so let us see. Yes, this is true. When in 1939, an agreement was struck between the Maharaja of Manipur and the British. He said that he doesn't want the hill regions. He wanted them to be excluded. So first statement is correct. In 1960s, because there was there was a continuance of this culture, that the Maharaja of Manipur did not have any rule over this particular area. Why not have a separate council for ourselves in order to preserve our culture, preserve our practices, preserve our customs, preserve our heritage? So, in December 1971, Parliament passed the Manipur Hill Area District Council Act, which created autonomous district councils in Manipur's hill areas, which constituted 90% of its geographical area, which was inhabited by many tribes such as the Kuki tribe, Zomi tribe. Okay, so first is correct, second is also correct, both and 1 and 2 will be the correct answer. Now recently a group of 24 Kuki Zomis, they were still living in Manipur, but they were evacuated, and because of that they are saying it was like an abduction. We know that Manipur's status is not really good right now. 4 months since the violence, there were just a group of 24 Kuki Zomis who were living over there. So now they have been translocated to a different area which they do not like. Alright, so although Manipur went through the same phase of governance division when the British took over the region in 1891. Somehow its hill areas were never covered under the 6th schedule. It was never under the 6th schedule, which talks about the areas which should be protected as a scheduled area. And the Maharaja of Manipur had in 1939 agreed with the British to exclude the hill areas of the region from his direct control and governance. So there were calls for a separate kind of administration for this area since the 1960s. So keeping that in mind, the December 1971 was the time when Parliament passed the Manipur Hill Areas District Council Act, which established autonomous district council in Manipur's areas, and that comprises of the 90% of the entire area. As you can see, this is the plain region, which is generally inhabited by the Meiteis. Comprising of Meiteis, this region, as it is a plain area, it gets most of its developmental activities. And that is why, because the hills are far reaching, a person cannot, it is very difficult to develop these regions. And because of the economic vacuum, radicalism occurs, militancy occurs. Of course, that is a byproduct of lack of economic development. So Meiteis used to live here, they still reside here, but the hills, they comprised of the tribes. Mostly which kind of tribes? The Kuki, Zomi, Samars, Nagas, they all used to live over here. Alright. So the councils are to have not more than 18 members who were to be elected to do what? Enjoy the power of taxation, maintenance of properties, allotment of land, management of forest, regulation of cultivation, and legislative authority on matters of marriage, inheritance, social custom, and appointment of chiefs. Basically, whatever used to be etched into their traditions and customs, that were a part of it. Okay, let's move forward. With respect to the East Asia Summit, consider the following statements. It was created in 2005 as an initiative by the ASEAN. ASEAN consists of 10 countries. It is held biannually and it comprises of countries only in East and Southeast Asia. The East Asia Summit we are talking about. So how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? See, the East Asia Summit has been an initiative of the ASEAN and it has been held since 2005. Okay, and it has been held in an annual basis, on an annual basis, not biennial. So sometimes it can happen that we miss these kind of things and UPSC will exploit us whenever we are missing these kind of things. So remember, 2005, an initiative of ASEAN, and it is held in an annual manner, not biannual. It comprises of countries not only in the East and Southeast Asia, but also countries such as the USA and the Russian Federation have been a part of it since 2011. So now we have 10 ASEAN countries, 6 other countries of Asia and Southeast Asia and even Australia and all that. But we also have 2 other countries, that is the USA and Russia. Alright, so how many members? 10 plus 6, 16 plus 2, 18. 18 members are there. So how many are not correct? First is correct, second is not correct, third is not correct, 2 are not correct. 2 only will be the correct answer. Okay. Ahead of the G20 summit in Delhi, Prime Minister Modi has went to Jakarta in order to attend both the ASEAN summit and the East Asia summit. ASEAN countries include, of course, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei Darussalam, Philippines, and India is trying to have a conversation about the Act East and Look East policy to these many years of summit. Now, what is the East Asia Summit? I have already told you about this. 10 ASEAN countries are there And then Australia, China, India, Japan, New Zealand, Republic of Korea are also a part of it. Supposedly, UPSC asks us about the East Asia Summit. You have to remember the 10 ASEAN countries, who are they, and the additional 6 countries and the additional 2 other countries who joined it 2011 at the 6th East Asia Summit, the United States and the Russian Federation. It's an ASEAN initiative. It refers to the annual meeting of the heads of states of these countries to discuss matters on primarily environment and energy, education, ASEAN connectivity, finance, global health issues and pandemic as well, natural disaster management. That means anything that is commonly a problem of all that is being discussed. With respect to by-polls, consider the following statements. The process of by-election has been mentioned in Article 324 Clause 7 of the Indian Constitution. The by-election should commence within 3 months from the occurrence of vacancy. Whenever vacancy occurs, it has to happen within 3 months. The procedure for conducting by-elections will be the same as the procedure for conducting general elections. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? By-election is the same thing as by-poll. It is popularly known as by-polls. And the word by-poll or by-election, we can call it, it has been specified in the Representation of People's Act of 1951. It doesn't find any mention in the Constitution of India. So first statement is incorrect. The by-election as the procedure is generally like the procedure for the general elections. It has to happen within 6 months of the vacancy. So first is incorrect, second is also incorrect because here it is written 3 months. So these are the kind of things you have to remember. Whenever we are talking about polity, most of the students tell me that they cannot remember polity because you haven't revised enough. If you revise enough, you have to read the books enough times so that you do not forget it. And revision is the key for this examination. Sometimes I have seen students complaining that, ma'am, I may have read that somewhere, but I do not remember it because of the lack of revision. Everybody is capable of, competing in this examination and qualifying if they are revising properly, if their strategy is correct. So if you lack strategy, you can definitely join the P2I batch. Okay, it's affordable, it's accessible, it's understandable. For Hindi, we have Hindi. For English, we have English. For English, we have English. And the procedure for conducting by-elections will be the same as the procedure for conducting general elections. So, first, incorrect. Second, incorrect. Third is correct. How many are correct? One only will be the correct answer. Voting has begun for by-polls to 7 assembly seats across 6 states. Let's talk about it. By-elections are elections which are held to fill previously elected offices which went vacant. They were elected but went vacant due to maybe resignation, death of the person. If a person has fought elections or contested elections from more than one constituency, that is generally what happens, that the second constituency they have to, of course, vacate. For that also we can do it. For defection, disqualification, these are the many reasons. Resignation, these are the many reasons whenever a seat becomes vacant, for which a seat becomes vacant. Before the seizure of such elected officers' tenure, and the legitimacy of by-polls in India springs from the Representation of People's Act 1956. So now next question. With respect to by-polls, consider the following statements. By-polls and by-elections are the same things. By-election has been mentioned in an official record, but by-polls, it is popularly known as. The provision of a by-election has been mentioned in Article 324 Clause 7 of the Indian Constitution. The by-election should commence within 3 months from the occurrence of vacancy. The procedure for conducting it will be the same as the procedure for conducting the general election. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? We have to choose the correct one. The word by-election has not been mentioned in the Constitution of India but the Representation of People's Act 1956. Okay, and not 1951. UPSC can also confuse us by writing Representation of People's Act 1951. No, it's 1956. The first statement is incorrect. The by-election from the date of vacancy of the seat, it has to happen within 6 months in the similar procedure like we conduct the general elections. So first is incorrect, second is also incorrect because here it is written 3 months, but it should be 6 months. And the procedure for conducting it will be the same as procedure for conducting the general elections, the Lok Sabha elections, the Legislative Assembly elections. Okay, so first is incorrect, second is incorrect, only third is correct. One only will be the correct answer. Let me recheck. First is incorrect, second incorrect, third is correct. Okay, one only will be the correct answer. This is the beauty of this examination, that you have to recheck, because sometimes any human will get confused between correct, not correct, and how many. So you have to understand, you must, like I reread it, you also will reread it in the preliminary examination, because nowadays they are not giving elimination techniques, right? So we have also formulated our questions on the basis of that. So voting underway for by-polls to 7 assembly seats across 6 states, and by-elections are elections which are held to fill previously elected offices that were previously occupied but they are not occupied, maybe because the person died, death of the person, or resigned, disqualified, he may have contested elections from 2 constituencies. So one constituency of course will become vacant, they cannot occupy both the constituency place. Then for defection also it can be vacant if a person has defected. So disqualification, defection, anything can happen. And when that seat becomes vacant, of course we cannot leave it like that. Within 6 months it has to be refilled again by conducting elections. Okay, so the legitimacy of by-polls in India springs from the Representation of People Act 1956. The word, it has been mentioned in the provision of the act. So remember, it has been given in the act and not the constitution. Section 147, 149, 150, 151, 151, clause A of the Representations of People Act 1956, which is also known as RPA 1956, talks about that if there is a vacancy in the seat for the Council of States, that is the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, then State Legislative Assembly and State Legislative Council. These seats have to be filled. The procedure for conducting it will be the same for the, like we have for the general election, and I have already told you this. With respect to mission portion, which of the statements is not correct? Digital infrastructure under the portion tracker rolled out in 2020 through National E-Governance Division is a governance tool of mission portion. All the states and districts will be covered in a phased manner. Portion 2.0 will bring 3 important programs or schemes under its ambit, such as the Anganwadi scheme, scheme for adults and girls, and Poshan Abhiyan. It targets to reduce stunting, undernutrition, anemia, and reduce low birth weight by 2%, 2%, 3%, and 2% annum, respectively. So you have to first of all understand what Poshan mission is about. Of course, in the critical areas of life, in the critical stages of life, first is of course, if we talk about women, it's pregnancy, then lactation, childbirth. For the child, it is just after the birth, then adolescence. So all these are critical stages of life. Here, if you find the good amount of nutrition, you can do wonders in life. If you do not, you may fall ill very often because your immunity system or your constitution is not very strong. Okay, so first statement, if we talk from that perspective, I've already told you what it is about. Digital infrastructure under the Poshan tracker, which was rolled out not in 2020 but in 2021, gives information about the status of this particular mission. Poshan, right now Poshan Mah is being celebrated, Poshan month or nutrition month, that will be celebrated the entire September. So the importance of nutrition, people are made aware about that, and all the states and district will be covered in a phased manner. It is not going to discriminate here. It will be covered in a phased manner. This particular category of states and union territories will be covered in this period of time, thereafter different states and districts. So Poshan 2.0 has brought 3 important programs and schemes under it, such as the Anganwadi services, scheme for adults and girls, and Poshan Abhiyan. It targets to reduce stunting by 2% per annum, undernutrition 2% per annum, anemia 3% per annum, and reduce low birth weight 2% per annum. You have to remember the data, we cannot do anything about it, that comes from revision. Okay, so comprehensively the focus is to address the malnutrition using a life cycle approach. That means the entire important critical stages of your life, in that if we provide the correct nutrition, your body will be stronger. Pregnancy, infancy, childhood, and adolescence. There is the theme of Suposhit Bharat, Sakshar Bharat, Sashakt Bharat. That means nutrition rich India, educated India, and empowered India. Also focusing on key themes such as exclusive breastfeeding and complementary feeding. These are some of the important things we have to keep in mind for the current Poshan Abhiyan that is going on, Poshan Mah that is being celebrated. Alright. Also, Swasth Balak Spardha, that means healthy child competition is there to encourage healthy competition for better nutrition and overall well-being. Poshan bhi, padhai bhi, that means nutrition and education. Improving nutrition through mission life. Life is actually making small changes at the individual level to ensure that the environment as a whole becomes stronger. Like if you're using plastic straws, don't do it. Buy steel straws or bamboo straws. If you're using plastic brush, don't do it. Use bamboo brushes. So that will of course help you and the nature both. And addressing anemia through test, treat and talk approach. This is also very important. Now, the goals of it are to achieve improvement in nutritional status of children between the ages of 0 to 6 years, adults and girls, teenage girls, pregnant women and lactating mothers in a time-bound manner. Why it is so focused upon girls? Because of course the menstruation. Whenever a girl during her teenage times, she is passing through the menstrual cycle, iron deficiency also occurs if they are not treated with proper nutrition. So that is why it is talking about adults and girls. During the next 3 years, when it was started, 2017 to 18. Then NNM targets to reduce stunting, undernutrition, anemia and reduce low birth weight in this particular manner. This is just data, you have to remember it, okay? Digital infrastructure, that is Poshan Tracker. 1st March, it was rolled out on 1st of March 2021, which is a governance tool to identify the status of the entire program, real-time basis. That means whenever it is occurring, it is getting tracked, okay? The Adopt a Heritage scheme has been recently revamped, that means changed and launched. The original scheme was launched in the year 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018 by the efforts of Ministry of Tourism, Culture and the Archaeological Survey of India. We were able to get Adopt a Heritage scheme in the year 2017. And here what happens, that entities were requested to bid to take care of the amenities that were situated in these many monuments, which are not just monuments of brick and mortar, but also they are economic in nature, they are social in nature, they are heritage in nature, they are cultural in importance. So all these things have to be maintained. And in order to maintain that, we also need amenities for tourists. So that is why to build proper amenities and facilities, Adopt a Heritage program was launched in 2017. Archaeological Survey of India has 3696 monuments under protection, and that spans across India. ASI launched Adopt a Heritage 2.0 on 4th September 2023, which invites corporate stakeholders to enhance the amenities at the monuments by using their corporate social responsibility fund. That means an amount which you are gaining from the profit from doing business in this country, you have to provide some part of that back as corporate social responsibility. Now moving on, the program is revamped version of the earlier scheme which was launched in 2017, which defines the amenities sought for different monuments under the AMASR Act of 1958. The term of the appointment will be for a period of 5 years. You have to remember the data. I am reiterating this because sometimes UPSC can ask us, random data. I have also put random data over here, which may be further extended up to 5 years. Further, a user-friendly mobile app named Indian Heritage has also been launched, which will showcase the heritage monuments of India. Now, this is a practice question for you. Consider the following personalities: Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, R. Venkataraman, V.V. Giri, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma. Today is Teachers' Day. Happy Teachers' Day to all the students, because without students, we cannot have teachers. So that is why I would like to, celebrate this with all of you who are watching this particular class. Now, how many of the above held the post of the Vice President before becoming the President of India? 1 only, 2 only, 3 only, or all 4? Options are given. You have to answer it. Let me take the names of those students who have answered the last question correctly. Okay. So many of you have answered it correctly. Mizoram was the correct answer. Yes. Kabilan, Harshit, then Raj Tiwari, Riya, Prabhat, Sukhvinder, Robinson, Omkar, Priyadarshan, Nand, Jyoti, Ritu, Vivek, Nikhil, Aditya, Mallinath, Sanjay. Writings of Soumya, I have explained what I meant, and yes, that was a human error on my part, but the explanation is correct. Explanation, you can go with it. Okay. Mukul, yes, I will answer this question. Mukul, your question is really good. Once we make a topic on G20, I will try to, of course, take this question on. Okay. You can also text me when you go to Telegram. You will find the text number. You can also text me there. Mansi, Simran, Prakhar, Yes, Prakha, that is correct. I'm sorry because these kind of names are really hard to pronounce. Thank you. Then Gaurangi, then Bachu, Abhishek. Thank you so much for answering the last question correctly. Answer this question as well. See you in the upcoming class.
StudyIQ IAS. अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।